Sibling rivalry starts earlier than you'd think it would. I think that from when a mum falls pregnant, if she does already have a toddler, if she's looking for it, will notice that the toddler becomes aware that something is going on. It may be that it's just a general feeling of unsettledness, renovations in the home, moving around of beds, the change in mum's body, the introduction of new caregiving arrangements, and sometimes it will coincide with plans to send the toddler to a daycare or a play school. I think that you need to be careful, that you don't overlook and ignore these. There are opportunities to help your toddler to begin to manage the kinds of rivalrous feelings that we anticipate seeing in a more dramatic way once the baby arrives. And how do you do that? Well, you need to think about what the baby is going to change in the family. The toddler is going to have more experiences of feeling left out. The toddler is going to become more aware of the relationship that exists between mum and dad that led to the plans to have this new baby. And also, the toddler is going to have to manage sharing mum's attention, often losing mum's attention. Having a new baby is a common and a normal developmental experience, which doesn't mean that it's an easy one, and in fact, for some babies, it can be quite a traumatic one. Of course, there is a positive impact to having a new baby in a family, but that's often carried by the parents who have the hope and the anticipation that there will be joy and there will be excitement and that there will be all the love and positive experiences that come from sharing a childhood and one's life with a sibling. How can you help your toddler to cope with a new baby? I often use this anecdote when I talk to parents who are expecting a baby. Usually I address the wife. I say, imagine how you would feel if your husband came home and told you that in a few months' time, he's been planning it for about 9 months, but in a few months' time, he's going to bring home a new wife. She's going to be very young and she's going to need a lot of looking after and she's going to need a lot of his attention. In fact, she's going to sleep with him and he's going to spend a lot of time cuddling and holding her. And he's going to expect you to really help her, show her how to do things and put up with the fact that he's going to be very distracted and very tired and very preoccupied. But it's going to be fun for you too. Well, I think that any wife would feel alarmed at the prospect of being displaced and possibly even replaced and left with all kinds of questions like, what's wrong with me? You know, am I not cute enough? Am I not good enough? Why am I losing out from the love and attention that I have so enjoyed? So I think it's important that you anticipate that that's likely to be the kind of experience your toddler is going to have to manage. What gets stirred up are insecurities. How you manage that for your child, how you help your toddler to cope, is going to depend a bit on your own experience of being a child among siblings. If you're an only child, if you're a firstborn, or if you were the baby of the family, may inform how you imagine your toddler's experience to be, and also whether you identify more with the toddler who is being displaced or replaced, or whether you identify with a baby who's coming into a family where there are already dynamics and histories that bind people together. In trying to think about the timing of changes and how we manage them, I think it's probably important to know that there are some developmental changes that you really aren't dictating the pace of. For example, toileting. It's more likely that your toddler is going to indicate that he or she is ready for it. And that may well be the week that the baby is about to arrive. And it would probably not be helpful to ignore the signs. It would probably be even less helpful to rush the signs. There are other kinds of changes, like moving your toddler out of a cot and into a bed, or starting play school, that you may have a little bit more control over. Sometimes it's January when the baby's coming and when the school starts, and you don't have a choice over that either. But I think if you can think about not allowing them to be, in the child's mind, coincidental. If the child understands that it is not because the baby is coming that you're getting out of your bed, your cot and into a bed, it's because you're ready for it. Similarly with letting go of nappies or starting school. And with a toddler, particularly if you've got a verbal toddler, you may find yourself answering all sorts of questions about your changing body. You may find yourself having to talk about sex, anticipating the arrival of the baby, and perhaps most particularly anticipating the separations that your toddler is going to have to cope with in new ways. I think that what's helpful is to be sensitive to the toddler's play opportunities. Lots of toddlers will put a teddy bear under their tummy in their t-shirt, or talk about a baby in their belly. And sometimes there'll be quite a lot of mothering play that you witness, and sometimes it's more aggressive. You may find that big animals eat or stamp on small animals. You may find that a little girl who's been given a doll to practice for when the new baby arrives spends a lot of time dropping it on its head. I don't think it's really helpful when a baby's expressing, or a toddler's expressing these kinds of feelings, to reprimand the aggressive ones only and reinforce the positive ones. I think it's reassuring to know that your child is playing out their feelings rather than actually acting out their feelings. That means the baby's probably going to be safer when he or she arrives. If you're trying to think about things that you should or shouldn't do once the baby actually comes home, one of the things that I find quite curious actually is this trend at the moment that mums seem to feel they should follow, which is about presenting the toddler with a gift from the baby. By all means, give your toddler a gift. It's quite hard to watch baby be on the receiving end of lots of visitors and presents. Giving a gift from your baby to your toddler is going to complicate the toddler's very complex feelings, which are not all about feeling grateful and pleased. So the most important thing to do when you've got your baby at home is to acknowledge the jealousy that your toddler is likely to feel, perhaps not likely to show. And that your toddler is sweet and affectionate and protective and loving doesn't mean that there aren't jealous feelings somewhere. If you remember what I said a bit earlier about being the wife who's just had a second wife come home. And toddlers can sometimes entertain us when they do feel they can voice these jealous feelings with all kinds of comments like, I think we should throw the baby away, or when's the baby going back? Recognize too, though, that having these kinds of negative feelings, aggression and jealous feelings, also stirs up a lot of anxiety for your toddler. So sometimes we notice toddlers having nightmares, becoming more clingy, or even developing phobias. Again, you can help them with those anxieties if you normalize the aggressive feelings. I think parents can think about helping their toddler by sharing the caregiving. Often families split things so that either mum is doing the baby all the time and dad's responsible for the toddler, or a mum who's more identified with the toddler's feelings of being displaced may take a lot of time with the toddler and allow a nanny or an alternative caregiver to attend to the baby's needs. But I think it's helpful if these things are shared. And again, to encourage and allow the opportunities for play, symbolic play, that is always a way for your toddler of processing his or her feelings. I think the most important thing is to be mindful of the pressure that we put on our toddlers to be big. You're going to be my big boy now. You're going to be my little helper. And to recognize that there may be regressions to much more babyish ways of being. And there may also be increased demands for our maternal attention. And I think that toddlers need to be reassured that we know that they still have small feelings, that they are still small children, that sometimes they want to be cuddled, sometimes they want to sit on our lap, sometimes they may need help with feeding or things that they have managed quite well themselves previously. In summary, you can expect your toddler to have difficult feelings about the arrival of a new baby. There is a positive impact, of course, to having a new baby, and that is the hope that your child is going to have a sibling to grow up with. You can help your toddler by talking about it and being sensitive to the timing of changes, allowing opportunities for play and not being critical of more aggressive play, and remembering particularly that your toddler is still a small child and that there is still space on your lap for him or for her.